The Ho Chi Minh City People's Court sentenced a total of 46 banking executives and staff to various prison terms on Monday in a case involving fraud worth millions of dollars. Among the defendants were Pham Cong Danh, 53, former chairman of Vietnam Construction Bank (VNCB), which is now the Construction Bank, and Tram Be, 58, former deputy chairman of Sacombank. They were found guilty of deliberately violating state regulations on economic management, causing serious consequences. Danh was sentenced to 20 years in jail while Be received 4 years. According to the indictment, Danh and other staff of VNCB secretly withdrew money from clients' saving accounts and used the cash to secure loans from other banks, pay off debts or deposit into their own accounts. Of the money stolen from VNCB, Danh used 6.1 trillion Vietnamese dongs, $263 million, to secure loans from Sacombank, BIDV and TPBank for his ghost companies. When these companies were unable to repay the loans, the three banks seized the deposits they'd held as collateral, inflicting losses on VNCB. Prosecutors had proposed a 20-year sentence for Danh. As he is already serving a 30-year sentence, the maximum prison term allowed by Vietnam's penal code except for life imprisonment, for stealing over 9 trillion Vietnamese dongs, $386 million, from VNCB at a trial in September last year. The sentence at this trial would run concurrently. The proposed sentence for Be was 5 to 6 years in prison. Be is charged with abusing his position to ignore banking regulations in order to help Danh borrow 1.8 trillion Vietnamese dongs, $77 million, from Sacombank. Of this money, Danh spent 1.7 trillion Vietnamese dongs on paying debts at another local bank for 6 companies that he owned, and deposited the rest in a personal account. Other defendants received between 2 years suspended sentence and 10 years imprisonment. Phan Huy Cang, former general director of Sacombank, got 3 years in jail, while Phan Ton Mai, former general director of VNCB, and Mai Hu Quang, former deputy director of VNCB, got 10 years each. Mai and Quang are already serving 20 years in prison for their involvement in the 9 trillion Vietnamese dongs case. The latest verdict means they will each spend 30 years in prison. The massive trial was first launched in January and lasted a month before it was put on hold by the judges, citing a lack of evidence or a strong enough argument to impose charges. This time, Tram Be, former board chairman of BIDV, was also summoned to the court among 235 people who were witnesses to the case or had related interests and responsibilities. He did not show up as he was reportedly receiving cancer treatment in Singapore. Ha was expelled from Vietnam's Communist Party in June for violations including lending Danh 4.7 trillion Vietnamese dongs, $206 million, from his bank. While BIDV eventually managed to retrieve this money, the loans had helped Danh steal over 9 trillion Vietnamese dongs from VNCB. The video is sponsored by Cientronic.com.